For the Glory is proudly powered by Mullaney Dairies.
Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Glory, an athlete empowerment production series brought to you by the Wattle Nest. My name is Rachel Condos-Fields and I'm excited to introduce you to some of Australia's great sporting talent as we share their stories, celebrate their success and embrace the power of sport as a true connector within our community. Joining me today as usual is our beautiful co-host and Australian track and field athlete, Nana Owasu.
Thanks, Rachel, for having me again. I'm so excited to hear some more stories from inspirational athletes.
As am I. Today, we're not going to disappoint. We have in studio with us Australia's first ever Taekwondo Paralympian who brought home the bronze medal from Tokyo. Welcome to the studio, Janine Watson.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Our absolute delight.
Janine, you have such an amazing story, but it started at the age of 25 when you were diagnosed with MS. Can you talk to us a bit about that, and did you have any signs?
Yeah, so multiple sclerosis is a condition where your immune system attacks the brain and the spinal cord, and at the time I was a goalkeeper for soccer, and what was happening is I was getting blurry vision and then double vision, and then things would go completely black. So when you're a goalkeeper for soccer and you've got two balls coming at you, it's a little bit awkward to try and save the goal. And what it was it just kept on happening, but it only happened when I was getting hot. So either exercising or on a really, really hot day. So it took about 6 months before I was able to be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at that time, it was that advanced that they said without treatment, I would be in a wheelchair within 5 years, a vegetable within 10, and not to expect to see my 40th birthday. So at the age of 25, when you're at the peak of your career, you got your life ahead of you, that's a pretty devastating diagnosis.
Oh, scary stuff, but you have persevered and you have such an incredible sporting story. But outside of sport, you are an ambassador for MS Queensland. Why is that so important to you?
Being an ambassador for MS Queensland is my passion project. We at MS Queensland say no one with MS is going to do it alone. And being diagnosed with MS, it's very isolating, it's very daunting. If you Google it, you see pictures of the worst case scenarios, and that's very, very scary for people who have just been newly diagnosed. If I can share my story with people and say, I've been diagnosed with MS, but it hasn't stopped me. I'm living an absolutely fantastic life, and you can too. That's my main purpose as being an ambassador.
Well, it definitely hasn't stopped you.
Truly inspirational, Janine. I've been lucky enough to watch some of your career journey and your transition from sport. And I understand that there are some challenges around eligibility for different Paralympic sports. And despite your successful efforts in Tokyo, you've come back and you've transitioned to badminton. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in para-taekwondo, the majority of athletes are upper limb impairments. So they've either been born without an arm or have lost an arm through an amputation. I was one of 2 athletes at the Tokyo Paralympics that had a neurological impairment. So when you're doing a full contact sport where the aim is to knock the other person out, they believed that someone with brain damage as much as mine, that it would be unsafe and a little bit dangerous. So the day after I won my bronze medal, they changed the rules. So you're at the peak of your career, and then you're like, well, I can never do this sport again because of the rule change. So I then went straight back to wheelchair tennis because I was aiming for Tokyo Paralympics to compete in both wheelchair tennis and Taekwondo, but the scheduling, they came on at the same time. So I had to make the choice. Very happy with my choice with getting that bronze medal. But with MS, it's a progressive disability, and I came back and was playing the summer series of wheelchair tennis, the lead up to the Oz Open in Melbourne in the middle of the day, 40 degrees, and the left side of my body has actually deteriorated more, and my left arm paralyses a little bit too quickly now. And when you're in a wheelchair and you've got one arm that works and one that doesn't, you just do donuts on the court. So Wheelchair tennis, I made the decision, it's not for me anymore. So with the help of Paralympics Australia and Queensland Academy of Sport, we trialled a number of different sports and I fell in love with wheelchair badminton. So that's now my sport to try and get to Paris for 2024.
Absolutely amazing. And for the people watching at home, I don't think they understand how difficult it is for you to retrain your brain to a new sport. A lot of coaching is based on sensory movement and getting, knowing when your wrist is firm or soft, but you don't have the ability to feel those senses. So how do you train yourself to hit a ball back when you can't feel it?
So I have no feeling in my arms from the elbows down, and I have no feeling in my legs from the knees down. So when you're doing a sport where it's about timing, finesse, wrist movement, and most people will go, just feel through it, you'll feel, and I can't do that. So for me, everything I have to do has to be a cue. So I've come up with all of these little nicknames and cues. So most people will go, oh, I'll just swing my arm. I have to consciously think, I have to do this with my arm, and then this with my arm. Because if I don't consciously think about it, the arm doesn't work.
Now, you talked about combat sport being deemed a little bit too dangerous, and I'm not saying I am agreeing with that, but there is a story you shared with me over coffee a couple of months ago that still daunts me at night. Can you tell us about that famous fight you had in Scotland where you lost a finger?
Yes, so I was competing at the Commonwealth Championships in 2014, and I had just finished my PUMSE, and then I then went to fight. And we think it happened in the third round, I'm not sure. Because I don't have feeling in my hands, I didn't actually know what had happened. So I'd lost the fight and I came off and there was blood all over my uniform. And in a combat sport, the first thing you go is, oh, my nose. Did I get kicked in the head? Is my nose bleeding? Nope, my nose was fine. Next thing I thought, is it her blood? Because sometimes you get your opponent's blood on your uniform. Wasn't hers. And I looked down and my glove was just red. So what had happened in the third round, she had kicked and my finger got bent all the way back and had detached and was just hanging by the lovely little tendons and skin. I thought it was fascinating because I've got a degree in exercise science and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. The first aid people are almost vomiting. And it was just a case of, I'm looking at it and go, because that's the benefit of not having feeling in your hands. I then got rushed to surgery and had it reattached under local anaesthetic. So they did a fantastic job. I've got a little tiny scar. It's a little bit longer than the other middle finger, but still works fantastically.
Unbelievable. And I know that you've had fights where you've broken your arm or leg and haven't realised either. So, Nan, I don't know what you think. I don't know whether you agree that it might be a bit too dangerous, and badminton sounds like a logical move. But
sounds like the safest. Can you talk to us a little bit about winning the bronze medal in Tokyo and then the next day finding out that you cannot compete in the exact same sport?
Yeah. Winning the bronze medal was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, no one got to see it because para taekwondo was a new sport to the Paralympics and there wasn't any media rights at all. So everyone back at home, no one got to see any of my fights. They were all watching live score updates and that was the only thing. I went into the Paralympics knowing that my self-worth is not dependent on a medal. Whether I had a medal or not, I was still coming home being the exact same person. I was still cooking dinner, still looking after the cats, still doing the housework. But it was absolutely fantastic to actually get that medal. I knew about the rule change a couple of months in advance, and I'd worked with my sports psychologist at the Queensland Academy of Sport going through that process. But I'd come to terms with it, and during the fights, it was very much, I'd lost my first fight by one kick, and then that put me into the repercharge. And I was nervous that first fight, and then I sort of went, there's no tomorrow. There's no second chances. It's not, that's okay if I don't do well here, I can then go to Paris. It was, this is it. This is my last and final fight. So make the best of it and have fun. And that's exactly what I did.
And brought home the medal.
And then, yeah.
Do you have it with you today? I should have asked you to bring it.
I do have it with me
Oh, do
today.
you? We'll get
but it's
photos
here.
after.
We'll definitely have to see that after.
Selfies. No, very, very quickly, the difference between training for such a high discipline sport and, martial arts versus badminton, and what's involved in your new training regime?
Training regime is still very much the same because I'm still competing in Taekwondo. So I've just recently picked up an Australian title.
Congratulations.
In Bendigo, not for the fighting, but the artistic side, which is called Pumse. So you need a lot of flexibility for that. My training is strength and conditioning at the Queensland Academy of Sport. I do Pilates 4 times a week as well to keep my flexibility, but now flexibility is in the upper body, so making sure that those shoulders are really strong and flexible. In wheelchair badminton, you also have to lean all the way back in your chair, so you're almost lying flat in your chair. So a lot more ab work that's different to Taekwondo. My ab work for Taekwondo was you're going to get kicked in the stomach. Now this is you have to hold that position while you're in your wheelchair. My training is quality over quantity. I can only train for about 60 minutes maximum, and then I lose too much function in my body. Also, I train in the mornings when I'm not fatigued. So my day is train in the morning, go home and sleep, and then when my partner comes home from work, I've got a little bit of energy to do the everyday things that you need for that balance in your life.
And in terms of recovery, do you have a recovery regime?
So recovery is absolutely important for me. I say the difference between an amateur athlete and a professional athlete is a professional athlete will schedule in rest and recovery just as much as they do for their training sessions. So I do myotherapy twice a week. I do magnesium baths as well. That also helps with it. But for me, it's just a lot of sleep to be able to recover and get the function back in my body for the next day.
Fantastic, well done, and good luck with your Paris journey. I'm getting the cue in my headpiece to say we're running out of time, but I don't want to leave without Nana playing her favourite game. What we're going to do today is the Fast Four. So Nana will throw to you 4 trivia questions. I don't know what's coming. Over to you, Nana.
So I've got some random questions for you, sport and non-sport related, but the first one is, what is bigger, an ostrich's eye or brain?
I would actually say the ostrich's eye is bigger than the brain.
You are the first guest that has got the first question right. Well done.
Well, haven't you heard the term, you're a bird brain? That means that you're not very smart because it is very small brain.
That's
You're
what she's a
teaching us
teacher.
something.
She's an educator at heart, yeah.
My next one is an avocado a vegetable or a fruit?
Well, it has to be a fruit because it contains a seed.
We've got an academic here.
We do have an academic. I think we're going to get 4 from 4.
So that means a pumpkin is technically a fruit because it has seeds inside it.
Oh, I didn't think about that one.
What about a banana? That doesn't have seeds.
It actually does.
What?
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. We are learning things today. Is it true or false? Do bats blink?
Oh, I'm going to say false.
3 from 3. Oh, I'm going
And
to
the
need to
reason
find a hard
why
one.
is because bats are as blind as a bat. So again, is that term. So they use echolocation. So they'll send out a sound and then wait and see where it hits and then comes back, and then that's how they can judge their distances.
I think you need to be asking
do we
us the
have a
question.
really tricky question
I'm trying to
there that
find
she's not
one
gonna
right
get?
now. I don't think
There
we
has
have
to be
one.
a prize for 100%
Ooh,
straight round.
I think. Is it possible to sneeze when you're sleeping?
I'm not completely sure, but I am going to say yes because I sneeze in my sleep, but does that mean that I've woken up to sneeze?
Well, on my
So-
sheet it actually says no.
You can't sneeze while
But
you're
if
asleep.
you can do it, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you just needed a little bit of brain damage like me. That's the reason why.
Hey Janine, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Our friends at Aldera have asked you to go home with some of their healthy headphones, and we hope that you find your own personalised sound. It's a really, really cool little feature with these headphones. They come with an app, so enjoy.
Fantastic. Looking forward to giving them a try.
And we hope you've had fun.
Yeah, have an amazing time.
And Nana, as always, thank you so much for being part of today. We're going to have to get some trickier questions for our next guest.
I think we do. Next time we see you, I'll come with some more questions.
Well, everyone, that concludes this episode of For the Glory series. If any of our stories have inspired you or you'd like to be part of our athletes' journey, please reach out, as our sporting talent needs our support and encouragement so they can focus on being the best of the best without having to stress or worry about some of their very real barriers. Please be sure to tune in next time as we discuss and share stories from the professional athlete world. Thanks everyone. Until next time.